Hi, Elissa Burkhoff with Keller Williams. Welcome to another episode of This and That Thursday. And today I'm going to be sharing with you 3 tips when you're having a final walkthrough. So at this point during a transaction, you're just about to cross the finish line, but you're not there yet. The final walkthrough is a very important step, so let's get started with those tips. Tip number 1, this is not a home inspection. The purpose of it is to make sure the home, condo, 2-family, whatever you're purchasing is still in the same condition as when you last saw it. You want to make sure there aren't any surprises. It's also the time to take a last look to ensure all repairs that were agreed upon after inspection were completed. Some buyers do want their home inspector to attend, especially if the inspection uncovered major issues that were to be fixed prior to closing. The inspector may charge an additional fee for this, but most importantly, you need to have permission from the seller ahead of time. The best way to do this is to put it in writing in an amendment. This will avoid any potential miscommunication. Tip number 2, it's best to have the final walkthrough once the seller has moved out and the home is vacant. We typically schedule it 1 to 3 days prior to closing on the property, and again, preferably once the seller has moved out. As a new homeowner, you don't want to open the doors for the very first time to your new home only to find a hole in the bedroom wall that occurred while movers were taking out a dresser. Doing the final walkthrough the day of closing might sound like the best option because the seller should be all moved out by then. However, if you discover an issue, big or small, that needs to be resolved before you close. So that could delay your closing, especially if the parties aren't seeing eye to eye. And tip number 3, take your time. The time frame will vary depending on the size of the property, but you should always do your due diligence and make sure to check all the rooms, closets, basement, garage, if there is one, not only to see if there's any damage, but to also make sure the seller hasn't left behind any items. I'm not talking about a few bottles of cleaning supplies and some empty boxes. Take paint cans, for example. We all know that it's kind of a pain to properly dispose of them if they still contain paint. So if there are multiple old, unusable cans of paint, that's something you should ask the seller to remove. On the other hand, if there is usable paint that can be used for touch-up, then you might want to consider keeping it. If you happen to find a problem during the final walkthrough, yes, it can be a hassle, but it doesn't have to be a deal breaker. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back with another episode of This and That Thursday. I'll see you next time.